Hello and welcome back to More Talk. I'm your host Cooper Moore and I'm joined here today by Mr. Xander, or your new primary school teacher or your new basketball coach. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good, thank
you.
Now, today, I want to know who is Xander. So let's start. I'm going to give you some hints to make it a little bit easier for you, okay? What do you want to be when you end goal of your career?
End goal of my career is like to coach in the big leagues, whether that's Europe or NBA.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah, so actually I study primary teaching because it's a great like safety net.
Okay.
And it's still like in line with what I want to do in terms of educating.
Yeah.
But obviously like a lot of people that play sport I find want to do something in sports, whether it be like physio, play, whatever.
Yeah.
And definitely my best avenue, and that would be coaching.
Yeah.
So sports is still like my favorite thing in life, just like fitness and education. So put it together, it's coaching.
Yeah.
So it'd take a long grind to get there, but if I ever end up in like a Europe job, NBL job, NBA job, that's like what I hope to be my end goal. But worst case, like I'm still happy and chilling if I'm like just a teacher, even though it doesn't sound as exciting, you know. But like, yeah, that's still chill.
What was your influence to become a coach?
I didn't have like a influence straight away. So obviously I started working at like the academy.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say 2016. Like it's been a while now.
Wow, yeah.
It's been a while now. So just learning from that just as a first job, and then like actually being fortunate enough to like my job.
Yeah.
Like I've worked in Coles and it sucked. So, so like actually enjoying a job, I was like, yeah, okay, this is fun.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, why do I enjoy this job? So then I was like, well, I'm playing sport because at the time I was playing as well. So I'm like, I play sports, so I can now coach the same thing I play, which is cool. And then like, you know, like you'd know, like when you see a kid make his first shot or something, like you've taught a kid how to do a crossover and then he does it in the game and gets you like 10 points, which isn't much for anyone, but for him, it's like a massive deal. And it's like, you know, as a coach, it's a big deal too. So it's like that, like for education, is where actually I thought of doing teaching.
Yeah.
So coaching has kind of stemmed what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
So it's like coaching is the end goal still, but yeah, teaching will definitely be an option as well. So yeah.
So you're saying that your experience as a coach and experiences of educating that kind of field has given you that reason to become a primary school teacher?
Yeah, it inspired me because obviously like the percentage of me actually getting a pro job at like my age even like is so low. And then even just as an adult, 30, 40, 50 is still very low. Like if you took all the coaches to ever coach a game, then how many done it for a job? It's like maybe like it's probably less than 1%.
Yeah.
So like I need to like be realistic and have like a backup plan.
Yeah.
Dude in teaching with us sport, that's pretty much like job security is there as long as I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm not that dumb.
So, okay, if you could choose between, I'm going to say the big three, right? So it's Australia professional, Europe professional, or American professional. What would you rather?
Ultimately, I would say NBA because that's everyone's goal. But I think each thing has its perks. So NBL would be obviously in Australia.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to leave family and everything, yeah.
And a lot of my network would be here. So in terms of security, it'd probably be the safest.
Yeah.
Europe would be sick because you're in Europe.
Yeah.
You're traveling.
Yeah.
And then America's like, as well as the big bucks, like that's like the one that everyone knows.
Yeah.
So like, you know, if I end up coaching, like I know like a Greek EuroLeague club is like Olympiakos. And if I end up coaching them, obviously I'm known in Greece, and that's like sick because I'm in Greece.
Yeah.
But like the common fan won't know you like a Popovich, Phil Jackson, that kind of dude. And it's not that I care about it, but also the more known you are, the more wanted you are as well. So that matters. So yeah, probably I would say NBA, but I wouldn't. Like, I'd be happy. I'd be cheering if anyone. I'm not gonna be picky.
Would you consider an assistant coach job?
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. like professional assistant coach job.
Yeah. In the coming years, once I've probably nailed my degree down, I'm definitely gonna start looking at like internships.
Okay.
Because that's like the avenue in you don't get paid. That's just how sport is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is.
Got to get internships going, just do the boring, cutting up film, all that stuff, work your way in.
Yeah.
And once you're in, then you just got to make sure you stay. So, yeah, I'd love to be an assistant coach. By no means I'd want to be a head coach straight off. That's so much pressure. So, because, like, you know, like press conferences, all that stuff. Like stuff you wouldn't even think of it as part of a job. So yeah, definitely.
Especially when you look at the NBA, right, and you have like was it Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer, and like all the coaches have won in recent like 3 years, but because they didn't win that year, that it's been released from their teams. Like as a head coach, it's kind of not reckless, ruthless to be like, where are you going to go? Okay, interest as a kid. Let's go. I don't want to go too young, but let's go maybe 12 years old. 12 years old. What were you afraid like?
It was very different because when I was 12, I was still like a more of a nerd than I am now. So it was definitely like a lot of video games, a lot of books, Pokemon cards, all that jazz.
Oh, of course.
So probably then it was to be like a YouTuber or something. I don't remember, but I don't know why. Part of me back then was like, oh, a police officer would be cool. I don't even know why. I've had no interest in it since. So yeah, I did think about for the stage, but
yeah.
In terms of like interests, yeah, it was just a lot of like that kind of nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
And like pretty much when I started growing, like through puberty and that, then I started playing sport more, probably because my body was craving it.
Yeah.
Then it just became a lot of sport.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy music, like not just like one genre. Like I quite enjoy like music, like the production of it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've had interest in being a DJ at some stage, but
rock on.
That's once again, if my end goal is a job with not much security, and then I'm a DJ and it's not. It's
a little bit contradictory.
Sounds like I go poor quickly. So yeah.
So when exactly did you start playing basketball? What was your start journey in the basketball world?
Yeah, so I was in year 5.
Okay.
And my brother had my younger brother had done the skill sessions for a couple of years, and I just I literally used to sit there on my DS. So I was just like, you know what, I might go start playing. So I did that, and then after a term, I signed up for local comp, and they come and try. They come and try days. And a local comp team that was already made just saw, because I was tall, like I was about this height, 11, so it was really rough. I was like, oh yeah, come to us. So I played A grade local comp in my first season. Funnily enough, with my coach was Delmas Green, who is Josh Green in the Mavericks. That's his dad. So like it's weird how that worked out. So I played with Kai Green. I think he's the youngest brother.
Yeah.
They have a younger daughter, but I think he's the youngest brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, I played that for like literally one season.
Yeah.
And then I think they disbanded. I don't know. And then from there I went to C grade local comp.
Yep.
Back into A grade with some friends, and then like I started working my way up. Because I was doing skills sessions on the side, but like, you know, I was just playing more. I think because I was bigger, it was easier for me.
Yeah.
When I started working my way up into potentially contending for reps, like in 14s both years, I was pretty much told I was like the 37th guy out of 36. So like, you know, and I started getting disheartened, not really wanting to try.
Yeah.
And then 16s bottom age came, same thing. I didn't even make it to the last week, that one, which is like fair. Because, you know, not a rep player, it's hard to cut your way in.
Yeah.
But then at that point, I started doing like private training. Because reps was something I did want to pursue, because I think my brother was in it at the time as well, so it looked like a fun environment to be in.
Yeah.
And I did a camp with a coach. So I was mates with a guy in high school. His dad was the coach of the 16-2s. So me and a few guys from my high school trained with that team in like a holiday camp or something. And then literally, like at the end, they're like, okay, hands in, whatever it was on 3. And then the coach was like, all right, I've got something to announce as well. So like, Xander, how would you like to be DP for our team? So whilst that was just a DP role, I was like ecstatic.
Yeah.
I definitely had a happy cry all over the car, but because I felt like everything I did, I was finally recognised. So midway through the season, I just hopped in, played a couple games that year, nothing crazy. And then the next season, I was in reps from then on.
Yeah.
Played 1 year at youth for different club, Hornsby, and then it's not that I don't have time to play. I think it's just my interest to play was kind of fading as my interest to coach was rising. So I would want to invest all my time into that.
Of course.
Because I still see everyone that I played with. It's not like I've like lost contact with everyone. So I can still see everyone there. So yeah, I've just pursued coaching instead.
That's fair.
Trying to get in at a younger age because I can. You know?
That makes sense. So I always thought it was about, you know, you played at that, you know, youth league level or whatever, and then I thought you got like injured and you're like, well, now I need to, if I want to stick with basketball.
No, it's just bad.
I have to go coaching.
No, it just wasn't good enough.
If history has been changed, would you have pursued basketball differently?
Changed how? Like, am I creating hypothetical here? Or?
You're creating a hypothetical.
Okay.
If it something were to change, if you were, you know, got in that first time you tried for reps or something, would you have pursued it for a high level?
I don't think I would have. So I think if I had have gone in when I first tried, I would have been pinned as a center.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to 16s, I was like a forward or a shooting guard. I wouldn't have been able to do anything. I probably wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would have changed anything in terms of how I got into reps and where I was. I would probably, if I was to change one thing in terms of playing, I probably would have maybe motivated a bit more of an interest to keep playing just a couple more years whilst I can.
Yeah.
Because like if I wanted to go back to reps now, like it's like state league.
Yeah.
Which is like really tough to crack. So I've accepted the fate of that's my choice, but at the same time, not mad about it because I have also enjoyed the extra time I've had to coach. So.
Of course. Why basketball? Why is your family basketball?
Really random. So once again, my brother was the first to do it. He started about a year and a half, 2 years before I did.
Okay.
And it was literally off a Commonwealth ad. Like he was like 4, I think. It was a Commonwealth Bank ad of like a kid shooting a
You're
hoop.
You're kidding.
And he's like, oh, basketball, that looks fun. So like we had those like little like NBA hoops. And then he was obsessed with that. Then we found Hills, and it just went from there. Like it's just completely random. Like there's no.
Someone talk about butterfly effect. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So yeah, like no one in my family is like I'm the tallest in my like family that I know. Like we're not like half is Greek, so it's all like soccer, and then the other half is like Yobbo Australian. So like, and not that they weren't athletic, they just weren't like. I know like my pop and stuff were like boxers, but like sports wasn't as much prevalent as far as I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this shit is a random.
That's so weird because I feel like your whole family's life is now basketball.
Yeah, it consumes you. Yeah.
It just takes you from that.
Yeah. So.
Okay, all right. Let's throw another hypothetical in here. Okay. What sport would you have chosen if basketball wasn't the option?
I really like soccer, but it definitely would have been league.
League?
Yeah,
like rugby?
Rugby league, yeah.
What about it? Like playing? You want to play?
I love to play it. Well, I wouldn't like to play it now. I'd get smashed. But I love to play it because like in year 6, I started to do like sport teams at school at PWSA, and I was in basketball and league in the same year.
Yep.
So basketball was fun. League I liked because I was bigger. I don't know how that would have translated now. I would have been like smashed. The league was fun, but I always enjoy going to a park, kicking the footy around.
Of course.
And just stuffing around with it.
Yep.
Also love soccer as well. A lot of sports I like, but probably it probably would have been soccer because that's on my dad's side.
Yep.
So ultimately, it probably would have been that. But if I had a preference, I probably would have wanted to play league.
Okay.
But yeah, basketball is definitely a nice spot for me.
Let's switch to the conversation just a tiny bit in terms of, all right, the NBA finals is coming up, right? Who is your team that you support? Spurs. Oh, okay. Now we have a conversation to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. How do you do it?
Wembanyama.
Wembanyama, okay. Excited, yeah or nay?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you really think he's going to fill up to his potential, or do you think he's going to be a bust? Because you know my opinion on him.
He will definitely be, like, I don't think he'll be like Zion in the sense of like he won't play at all.
Yeah.
I reckon he will get injured, but I reckon he will probably, because if you look at KD, right?
Yeah. KD,
besides his Achilles tear, he's not too bad of injuries. Because he's got that like wiry, lengthy strength, and I expect the same from like I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched every single one of Wemby's games.
Of course,
from stuff I've seen, he does get pushed in the chest, but he can take it and then rise up. So I reckon he's stronger than what he gives off.
Okay,
and then I just want to trust with the Spurs culture that if he is injured, he's not going to like just eat and be out of shape.
Of course, he's.
Like, I'm not saying he's going to be like a Chet Holmgren, like for OKC, where he's just going to break his foot and not play the whole year. Hopefully that's not the case, but
yeah,
I reckon he's probably got that like more of a wiry strength. And I reckon being the Spurs and still having the main staff around, it can probably make it easier.
Of course. What started San Antonio Spurs for you? What made you want to join that?
Also completely random. NBA Jam. Tim Duncan and Tony Parker had the funniest looking faces, in my opinion, when picking a team. So I just went there without knowing anything about basketball.
Oh, this is such a pain.
Unfortunately, since the first year I started watching was when they were playing the Heat. So the first year I was watching was when they lost to the Heat. And obviously the second year they won. I'm still filthy about Leonard twisting his ankle against the Warriors in 2016, I want to say.
Ouch. You still hold that.
It's been downhill since then.
Well, I'm a Philadelphia fan. And I will never love Kawhi Leonard. I hate him to all my guts just because of that Game 6 shot. I'm just like, you didn't have to take it? Anyway, like my friends still text me that randomly, just like send this to a Philadelphia fan to make them cry, and it's that shot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy he twists his ankle. I'm sorry for I can't deal with him. He just sucks. I hate him. Okay, 5-year plan. Your 5-year plan. Lay it on me.
Okay, so career wise, I want to have obviously completed my degree.
Yep.
Get teaching down pat, and then see where I can fit in an internship role.
Okay.
Literally any sporting club wants to take me.
Okay.
And then coaching wise, realistically, I'll probably still stick around in the academy because I don't have a life. And then representative, I'd want to have the JPL teams, not in the sense of that I think working with lower rep talent is boring, because that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Yeah.
It's just for what I want to be,
you need to be training elite talent. Reps. Yeah, of course.
So it'd be that. Definitely have at least one state team selection, which will most likely be as an assistant, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
And just keep working my way up the BNSW programs and just keep networking wherever I can.
Yeah, of course.
So that's a big part of coaching, is just who you know as well.
Of course, yeah. So, when you're talking about coaching, you're very passionate about it, right? And I've got a thing I want to think about, right? Would you have considered a PHP role? Like, you're going for primary school teaching, but if you wanted to be coaching, why did you not consider the secondary aspect and doing a PHP role?
Well, if coaching doesn't work out, I definitely would rather want to be a primary teacher.
Okay.
So I have to put, I know being a PE teacher that can coach at high schools and all that can still complement coaching.
Yeah.
But in the sense of that doesn't go where I want it to go,
yeah,
I then don't want to be stuck in a job I half like.
Of course.
So I have to prioritize the careers individually, regardless of how they gel.
Yeah, of course.
And ultimately, I think over the span of 40, 50 years, if I teach, probably 70 with housing prices and stuff, I think I'd be better off doing 60 years teaching kids out of 5 to 12 than people that are a few years younger than me.
I understand. I
think I would annoy myself. So
yeah, that does make sense. Okay. I'm going to take you to a little bit more of a spiritual world, okay? You might not like this, okay? Xander, what makes you happy?
People.
People.
Just...
Can you elaborate on that?
So every aspect of my life that I do anything in...
Yeah.
You would probably, if you think about it, I'm surrounded by a lot of people.
Yeah.
So at the moment I'm alone, that's when I start I haven't been dying of anxiety or anything. It's not that bad, but that's when I start overthinking and anxious about stuff. So I always need to be around people. So if I'm usually around people, I'm usually chill.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's literally everything.
There's other stuff, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to people.
Okay.
Obviously money makes you happier, but to an extent. Doing well in uni makes you happier to an extent. You're just getting a piece of paper, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're surrounded by people, people that you can converse with. So a 5-year-old would count in that regard, because you can just joke with them and they think you're the funniest guy ever. Yeah. Even that's fine. So
yeah. So cool. In terms of if people makes you happy, I wanted to take a trip down memory lane, going through to COVID lockdown. How was that then for you?
Actually, it wasn't too bad. So obviously, it wasn't the greatest for anyone.
No.
Biggest thing for me on that was I started loving food. So in terms of bad part for COVID, that was probably the worst thing.
I had a COVID belly. Don't worry.
So besides that, because in my childhood, I was, as I mentioned, a very nerdy kid. So I was pretty well versed in gaming and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of my mates are same. So we would just kind of get on every day and just. At the first lockdown, I was in year 12. So we were actually also allowed special exemptions to come back into school.
Yeah.
So I was still seeing some people face to face, and we would do the thing where you drive to someone's house and yell at them. Like, I was still seeing people, and interacting with people, so it wasn't like a Zoom. Like, it wasn't actually that bad in terms of that. Biggest thing there was the eating, and then I guess the routine as well of having to go to work, because it was just hard to get back into. It wasn't bad during COVID, but once it was done, it was hard to get back into. So yeah,
if basketball isn't a part of your life, like you don't, if you don't have to go there every time at 3:30, or you don't have to do the trainings, how would you feel if Hillsong just closed right now?
If they just closed right now, I'd be scrambling to get my way into another club, because it does take up a lot of time, but like that's just it's part of my routine. So I feel like my feet would just be like pulled from underneath me.
Yeah.
But in terms of if basketball just was like not a thing, like if it just like randomly just deleted in life, I'd probably have to because right now, like what makes uni easier as well is like if I'm not doing too well, I'm like, that's right. It's my kind of like my backup job anyway. So like that's how I sometimes like fight off if it's not going too well there.
Yeah.
Like I still try, but makes it easier. But if basketball wasn't there, I'd probably just be confused for a couple months, like in just terms of like what do I do with his spare time. I'd probably do some like unhealthy habits, whether it just be like eating or just not exercising in the spare time, because I'm like, I can chill now at least.
Yeah.
But after a while, I'd probably either look to just pursue jobs for more money at that point, or just I don't think I would cross over into a different sport. I don't think I would do that. So probably just end up looking for work more ultimately. So
yeah, I've always contemplated the idea of I love reffing. I do sometimes, but referees are the job that people get yelled at, and it's just how it is. And I've always known that, right? And then I always thought like, what if I would have just stopped today? Like, what would have happened? And then I always reflect back onto lockdown or to all these different things where I wasn't running every day, and you don't really understand because I've been running maybe 4 or 5 days a week for the past 5 years, and then you just stop. You realize that it's like a real big part of your life, and basketball in general. If I was to cut that out of my life, I'd be like, I get to play with cameras, I get to watch movies, and you're like, well. It might get me nervous. It might get me anxious going to basketball and doing stuff.
yeah,
But it's such a big part of your life for it to just go away. You know what I mean?
that's why I like sports, because this inherently keeps you fit without even realizing as well.
Absolutely right. It literally
like even coaching, if you get stressed, you're just pacing out the sidelines. You're still walking.
You're still being active. You're not.
Yeah.
I really didn't understand how much exercise or how much being active was. Yeah, you're right. Coaching, maybe not running all the time unless you're mass defense, but you're still moving. And when you just stop, you really just get so out of place.
The other good thing, I can't comment on refereeing. I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And playing, it's not as easy to do. But the good thing of coaching as well is it keeps you mentally in check as well, because you have to learn how to regulate yourself.
Yeah.
So you don't just, because especially with kids, because they will just read you and follow you. So if you're all over the shop, they're going to be all over the shop. So you got to learn how to regulate yourself, and then it's just the challenge of the game.
Yeah.
Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? So it keeps you thinking. So mentally, it's stimulating more so than physically.
Yeah.
But you still do walk around and get amongst it. And then playing, I find it's just more physical.
Yeah.
You do use your head, but it's sometimes in the moment you don't use your head as much. So it's kind of like that. I don't know how refereeing works. As I said, I haven't done it.
Yeah.
I don't like getting yelled at, so I'd be a bad referee. So I'd probably just go.
An aspect of being a representative coach, right? I feel like, of course, it's rewarding, but I feel like there is also a lot of sacrifice. As a ref, we might be spending that time, traveling or doing stuff to ref basketball, but then we're also getting, paid for our services very explicitly. You've done this, you get paid for it. Coaching is not the same, is it?
Yeah, so you don't get paid, not at our club anyway. There are other clubs that do pay some coaches.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just a term. It comes down to what you think your payment is. So monetary payment is one thing. You can get the payment of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Your team's winning. You can get the satisfaction your players are developing. If you're in a prem team, you can get the payment of your personal rep now. So people take you more seriously and stuff. So it's just like with rep basketball, especially because the avenues, that's how you got to build into state as well. So you're paying yourself with the time you're using, if that makes sense. Like you're paying yourself because you're giving time to it, which then builds up into a bigger like portfolio. So you're kind of paying for the portfolio.
Yeah.
So it's, whilst you don't get paid, I mean, it also doesn't bother me. Like, what am I doing? I'm doing uni. My work hours are school hours, so like it fits perfectly. It's not like I'm sacrificing too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't bother me too much, but I know that some people, especially when you get older, because it's harder once you have kids.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to avoid the conflict of coaching your own kid. So yeah.
What is your advice to people who want to go down the coaching world?
All right, so I obviously can't give advice to most people above me. So to the people that haven't gotten to what I have to yet, it's just literally just network is the big one.
Yep.
Network, learn. Don't be cut if you get told what you're doing is wrong.
Yep.
Like you just have to be like a sponge and network.
Yeah.
Do that for a few years and you just keep building. And just try and surround yourself and put yourself in opportunities where you don't think you have a chance.
Okay.
So, like, I always apply for state teams and stuff. I know I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
But get my name in the circle at least, and then...
One day.
And it just shows your intention.
Of course.
If you want to take it seriously, just network and take in everything you can.
Yeah.
A lot of coaching is... Not a lot, but part of it is, like, stealing stuff from other people and, like, reworking it.
I've heard a lot about that.
I'll say borrowing, not stealing. But, you know, stealing.
Boring. Yeah.
And just reworking it. And, you know, networks are good for that. Networks get you in places. But, yeah, just have fun with it as well. Like, it's... I ultimately coach because I have fun doing it too. Like, I like the competitive spirit of it. So.
Of course. You have just recently went on a trip to Melbourne and Hills, I don't know how many teams we sent, but it's always a big thing, just long weekend. Tell us about your personal experiences. Like, how did you go? Was it beneficial in any kind of aspect?
Yeah, so there's over 820 teams in the thing I competed in.
That's ridiculous. Like, you have to explain, like, just how crazy that is, honestly.
Yeah, so 820 teams. Hills sent all 24 junior teams.
Wow, okay.
There's a classic as well, which is a different... That's for, like, the premier team, so it's, like, the harder competition. So there's probably closer to 900 teams down there.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a hectic experience because besides the classic, your games can be like at any venue all across like suburban Melbourne areas. So fortunately for me, all my games on the Saturday was 3 of them were at one venue.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
so
the
lucky.
Sunday they were both at a different venue, but the same, like they were at the same place, but like so it was really good in that.
Yeah. Because you haven't had that amount of luck, haven't you? Because like previous years, you told me that you've had like games here and then your brother's games are here and it's all ramble.
Yeah, so there was 1 year where me and my brother went and we had 5 games each and had to get across 10 different venues. So that's that's rough. So but yeah, in terms of my team, there's lots of divisions because Victorian basketball has like downs like Div 10.
Wow,
whereas
that's
here,
ridiculous.
Whereas here we stop at like 4.
Wow.
And at SA it's like 3 and 4 as well, and that's usually who goes. So they have like classic, and there's like Div A, Div A1, Div B, B1, B2, and then like C1, and it keeps going down. So anyway, the equivalent of what my team plays in now was B2.
Okay.
And I wanted to put us in B2, if not B1, just because my team is small, and I was hoping to get some like massive Victorian athlete kids that we can just learn how to defend.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we got put into B3.
Okay.
So first game, like in the only team I knew in our pool was the Comets.
Okay.
Which annoyingly, that was like the 5th time we've played them this year, and we still have to play them in the rounds later on. So
ridiculous,
crazy. So we played Vic team first. It was close the first half, and then we kind of just pulled away. We ended up getting up by 15. Second game was Comets, and we've beaten them comfortably each time. In the first half, we were down. Like, I think when the half ended, we were down by like 5 or 6 after starting up 6-0. So we kind of got like a smack in the face.
Yeah.
Anyway, came back and won that one.
Yeah.
Third game we won. But we've gone into it because there's so many teams, and even though they have a lot of venues, they still have to be careful how they manage time.
Yeah.
It's like halves, running clock, it's all that. It's like local comp.
Yeah.
So we were 3-0. There was another team that was 3-0, and then there was an Adelaide team that was 2-1.
Yeah.
They lost to the other team that's 3-0. So going into it, like, we kind of need to win both games to make the finals. Otherwise, we go into a 3-way tie for first, potentially. And the team that was 2-1 actually had the best points for and against.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So we played the 2-1 team first. It was this Adelaide team. They were just really lengthy and long, and we just couldn't get past them. So we lost that game by like 15.
Wow.
Which is annoying in a sense because we were competitive. It's just like literally we just physically couldn't do anything. So we took learnings from that game, which is why I wanted to go. So I'm happy we got there.
Yeah.
So then they were 3-1, the Adelaide team. We were 3-1, and the Vic team was 4-0. We were playing that Vic team next.
Wow.
We ended up beating them comfortably. Like, it's only by 6, but it's playing halves. It's hard to like really break away. So we ended up beating them, and the Adelaide team won their game. So we ended up coming tied first, like across 3 teams. But because they only did first versus first from the other pool, we missed out on points for it against. So it feels weird only losing one game and just like that's it.
That's that is a little bit weird, isn't it?
But like considering we were in a division lower than what I wanted to be, I kind of that's the expectations we had was to be first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Whilst we didn't make the finals, you technically were still first. So
yeah,
like I'm not mad about it. Yeah, it was a good experience. I hope the players, because usually when teams from Sydney come back from Melbourne, they usually like that step above the competition because the rest of the comp takes a break off.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the reason or if like you just become more conditioned to the games and you build off it. So yeah, we're currently second in the state thing. And the team that's first has got a couple of big athletic guys, so hopefully we can
work around
take our learnings and keep rolling. So,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I had a question. I was looking at your face and I just lost it. That's my bad.
That happens.
That happens. Okay, so that was a very, from what you're saying, it's very like a learning experience. So you learn quite a lot. It's a
development tour.
Yeah. When is your season done? Like, when does the important stuff start to really happen?
Starts in August.
Okay.
So next Sunday is the continuation of the season.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 games, including next Sunday. And then it's like, I'm assuming it'll be 1v2, 3v4.
Yep.
And if you win the 1v2, which we'll probably be in, you just go straight to grand final. So probably within 6 weeks from Sunday, it'll be decided.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get into the off-season stuff, and then November's trials, and you're back in it again.
It's a very big. There's not a lot of turnaround, is there?
It looks like it on a calendar, but when you actually like realize that during the off-season, like I'm involved in like BNSW stuff and then Hills stuff to try and keep players ready and geared up.
Of course.
You don't actually get like a break per se, but it's nice to do that development stuff as well because then you can kind of work closer with them.
Yeah.
Get their games better for the next year. So,
well, every time like when I'm reffing, it takes such a mental capacity before a game, no matter what game it is. If it's rep, you're trying to give it your 100%. So it's a fair. So then the winner of the game is not decided by the ref. It's decided by who played the hardest, who played the best, who played the proper game. But then like when the season's done, they still throw us more work. Like I just want to like turn off.
Get the break. Yeah.
Get to like okay. I've accepted that now, you know, someone's texted me season's done and I have a date till when season starts again, but it's never like that because they always, you know, the athletes, of course, need to stay in check. So they have little tournaments. So like, you know, maybe like I think D-League or different kind of things to do it. It just keeps going and going and going. Last question before we wrap up, okay? Are you worried that you're not going to be remembered as a coach? A little bit of a deep question.
Not really, because I think the people that I work with will, in some, like I don't coach to be remembered. I just coach for right now because I like it.
Of course.
At the end of it, so the people I have an impact on that I want to like truly invest my time in because obviously, like at the academy, I've seen probably thousands of kids by now.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know all the names.
No.
It's just the nature of it. Like I can't like invest my time into all those kids equally. So therefore, if they don't remember me, I probably don't remember them. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for the people I invest my time in that I would probably remember, if they didn't remember me, you'd be a bit like, oh. But like I think I try and hold myself in a good enough way and invest enough time to the point where the people I care about, just remembering that I've had an influence somewhere, they probably would and hopefully be thankful for it. So,
of course.
Yeah, I don't coach to be remembered, but it also wouldn't hurt if you were. Put it that way.
Well, Xander, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. Quick question: Do you want extra followers? Like, if I were to say, go follow Xander on Instagram, is that what you're interested in?
Not really. I don't have a coaching account or anything, so yeah, just you can if you want.
Well, if you're ever at Hills Hornets, go say hi to Xander. He's always there. He's always a very friendly person, unless it's Saturday 8 a.m. where we're very tired. Thank you very much for joining the podcast. Thank you very much for watching on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you for listening on Spotify, and catch you all later. All the crazy shit I did.